you were, and even since we started talking about it in the very beginning, before we started the podcast, you were always on my heart. And so you are our very first interviewee.
Oh my.
So thank you. Um, and I just want to highlight and talk about the work that you've done in addiction, recovery, treatment from, and from your beginning days to
Mhm.
how that's changed now.
Mhm.
Um, Good and bad, we've had good and bad changes, but as far as women facing addiction, mamas, brothers, sisters, parents, I feel like it's usually the woman who kind of figures out where we can get help. What we can do is trying to turn over every rock in the family. And I don't mean to be, negative towards men. There's a lot of men that have to do that too. But I think women are just so more detail oriented that it's us that never gives up.
Mhm.
And so why don't you tell us way back when how did you first get into this field?
Well, from life experience is how we got into this field. So, um, I've been married to my husband, David, for 54 years almost. And if anybody shouldn't have made it, it would have been us, you know.
Congratulations, that's a long time.
Yes, I haven't changed him yet. It's amazing. So, after we had four small children. Our oldest was 10, four girls. They were 2, 6, 8, and 10 uh, when we'd been married 17 years. And David's alcoholism, and he's a physician, had gotten to the point where he was still functioning as a doctor, but it would not have been long before there would have been serious consequences there as well. I didn't know how sick I was because I was sitting in church, that faithful churchgoer, taking the kids and just praying that God would just get rid of him and the girls and I would be fine. And,
Yeah.
thank God he didn't do that, so uh,
Yeah.
it's one of those very dysfunctional family situations. I can remember going to Al-Anon for the first time and thinking I was so scared because I just knew we were the only family in Sikeston, Missouri that was going through something like this. And so anyway, there was the right people brought into my life to set up an intervention for my husband to go off to the promised land, which was treatment. 37 years ago on
Wow.
June 1st. Yeah, long time. And he got it there. That's really where when he first went, he didn't think that he needed it because he wasn't as bad as all those other people sitting there. And so the counselor said, I believe I just let him sit here this first weekend. And I just told the story the other day. And by Sunday night, he called and said, I'm just like everybody else. He was going into treatment thinking, I'll just, read the AA book and take a test and I'll be fine. So that was his mindset. And little did I know that I was sicker than he was.
And what
So
year was that?
that would have been 87.
Okay.
87, 88 in there. And that started our journey. So for the first 5 years, of course, we're just walking on eggshells, have no idea, what is this new life and everything. But we started going to a church, Morley Baptist Church, and getting with other people who were in recovery. And by 96, we realized that we had a message and we were connecting with people and all that sort of thing. And so we got together and we wanted to have in the church and wanted to have something for the community of Sikeston that was related to substance use because that was our message, and did the storyboarding and I'll never forget it. And so Dennis, Pastor Dennis was Sebulek was kept doing the storyboard and it kept going back to pulling down walls between racist denominations and lifting up Christ. That was the beginning, honestly. And so we had this Christian block party.
I remember the block party.
Yeah.
I was
And
there.
yeah, yeah, in June of 1996. Who knew? You know, and a couple thousand people that were there, churches all, and it was a lot of just, what this is all about. But it was really about bringing people together. And that truly has been our mission, is to pull down walls between racist denominations and lift up Christ. But fast forward, after we had five of those, and after the second one, we realized we had to get back to what our original purpose was. And we opened a soup kitchen of all things, and then people started coming, and guess what, they had substance use disorders, and so it was this full circle. And within a short time, we were connected with Department of Social Services at that time, and started doing stuff more in that area. And fast forward, after all these years now, we're part of departmental health. We're called the access site for recovery support services. And we do the assessments and oversight for all contracted providers in 26 counties.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, and part of the state Missouri Coalition of Recovery Support Providers, one of the founders, and real connected to all that. And God just kept sending the next right person. So in all that process, we became part of Access to Recovery, which was a federal program through the state. And that's how we really, developed what we're doing. But that was going to go away. And as you remember, Holly, in 2018, the governor signed in Mission, Missouri, signed into law, and that's largely responsible because of Holly. And so we were all here. And what I remember about that day, of him being here and signing into law, that we were part of a line item in departmental health budget, for the first time, 2.5 million. And that was huge for us. And it was for
Right.
the state. What I mostly remember about that is we had about 100 people and no air conditioning on June the 26th.
It was okay. It was okay.
About the governor getting hot, So, so anyway, that was really an amazing beginning, and Missouri Recovery Support Services has just been such a, um, we were kind of like the extra thing coming along, the kind of like the stepchild every now and then,
Yeah.
because treatment has been here so long, and treatment and recovery support services didn't really know how to work together.
Right. And explain that difference because that's something that you and I talked about all those years ago that even our governor at the time, Eric Greitens, when we started working on that line item, that was one of the things that was an aha moment for him. And because he's like, Holly, we've put all this money in, we've got all this money. It's listed right here for treatment. And I'm like, that's not what we're talking about. And so tell us the difference between treatment and recovery.
Right. And we love treatment. We love the clinical treatment
Right.
providers. We have to have those, but they're very limited, and it's a linear process of, 30, 60, 90 days, maybe a little bit longer. And then they're bound by their requirements and their funding and everything, that's it. Maybe there'll be some outpatient afterwards. But recovery support providers have long-term relationship with people, and we're primarily housing providers, but there are people who are not housing and just do other recovery support services. And recovery support services are the external services that are provided, like housing, like education, like workforce, like all those things, and that creates the ability for someone to believe that they can acquire and sustain recovery. So
The
it's an
sustaining recovery, that's um, to me, the thing, and you were the one who helped me understand this way before we were working on a line item with the governor. Um, but was that you have to have that community aspect. You have to have more than, hey, you were very successful these last 30 days or these last 60 days or these last 90 days. Come in for an appointment or, let's keep this going. In order to walk that out and it's a different time frame for different people.
Right.
Some people it's 2 years, some people it's 6 months, some people it's 10 years.
Mhm.
Um, but explain that, what that walking it out looks like when it comes to, like, say, Mission, Missouri.
Sure. And so kind of back historically, so we had when we started recovery housing, we did 16 years of housing for men. Okay. And then we realized that there were more things, more opportunities for men in our area than there were women. So in 2020, we switched to women. So there was a process in that. And I always have to say, men and women are really different.
Yes, I bet.
It was not like just scratching out the word men in all of our materials and putting women. It doesn't work like that. So we have been on a huge learning curve on what that is to meet women where they are, who by the time they have come to us have, most probably become estranged to their families, lost their children, whatever. We see a lot of sex trafficking. I mean, there's just all kinds of things. When the women come to us, more drama, more trauma. It's not a quick little check the boxes and you're going to be well. It's not like that. So I would say one of the things that we have learned for men and women, but somebody has to feel that they're loved, in a healthy way. And our model even has, with the language that we have now, is very much, we say faith-based, but it is built on First Thessalonians 5:23 of spirit, soul, and body. Here we have learned to give the Spirit of God enough room and time, whatever that looks like, to work with the spirit of the person. But we're not going to neglect what the mind has to have, the counseling, whatever it takes, what the body has to have, dealing with trauma that's trapped in our bodies, medication. It's a whole package. Now, that took a long time for us to get to that understanding.
And that was one of the things with Rachel, my daughter, as you've been helping with her since she was a teenager, when we first stumbled. And that was one of the things that after 13 years of deep addiction with Rachel, that I had the great fortune of being on a panel as a legislator. And I realized I was on a panel with a therapist. I was on a panel with a professor that studies this out of WashU, and then a young girl who had gotten addicted to heroin in high school and was clean, um, from a prominent family in
Mhm.
St. Louis. And so um, when I left there that night, it was just like a light bulb had been turned on for me, because here Rachel had gone through multiple treatments or detoxes, but I had never gotten her the mental health component of it. I had thought that once you get your body cleaned up, all the, push through your system, um, you focus on making better choices. That, but the damage that has been done to you neurologically, to your body, to your actual, down to your molecular level, there have been actual changes because of adding in a drug that stimulates, increases endorphins. And so that's something your body naturally makes. But if you're adding something in that's increasing that, then you take that away. Your body doesn't understand, oh, I got to make all of these myself again. It's then in a deficit.
Mhm.
And that causes physical sickness that can go on for a long time. Um, and so once I realized that it was that the therapy side, the actual effects on her body side, the medical side, um, we were able to get somewhere.
Right.
And so, how many families do you think? I still talk to families all the time that have no understanding of that. They think they are still caught in that this is a moral failing, and my child or my dad or my sister just doesn't want to, they would rather have drugs than be a part of our family. And that's just really not the case. And explain that, I'm sure you articulate it much better than I do.
Oh no, you're wonderful. So so like what percentage of is like 99.9%, of families do not realize that they are sick also. Just like I had to come to that understanding. Codependency, we talk about that all the time, and all those other things that affect family members. Um, Substance users as well, but to the degree that family members want to fix, right? We want to rescue. We want to do those things that uh, creates our reward system, being happy. Uh,
Right.
well, that felt good. I'm gonna do that again, and of course it doesn't work. But that's our sickness, and we have to realize that we're trying to compensate, and we are looking at them as if those are artificial, as if it's a need that I need to compensate for, but it's an artificial need. So we're jumping in. So families are just all caught in this cycle that I can do. If I do XYZ, it's going to make Susie well. And so
Yeah.
when my husband went to treatment, and we were in one of the meetings together on the weekend, and we were watching a film by Father Martin, sorry, and it had the four children, the hero, the scapegoat, the lost child, and the mascot. And our four little girls had set up at ages 10 to 2 in those four roles exactly in that order.
Really.
Yes, ma'am. Now that's a shock to your system.
That
When you
it that would have been
that
100%.
of your family, that's my family. Well, we knew that we didn't know how to love ourselves or each other, but we had better do something different for those children, right? And
Yeah.
so at that point, it's like for us, thank God, we realized that our recovery, it wasn't perfect, but mine was here and his was here. It was parallel tracks, but it wasn't me trying to fix him or vice versa anymore. And that was a point in time. And I think every family has to come to that realization. However, and I've had multiple levels of more and more of letting go. Um, and back to our body, even as family members, we don't realize how much when we're full of anxiety,
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
trauma that we need to deal with on us, and it's really a matter of letting go. I mean, it's so deep, honestly, and yet it's so simple, and yet it's so difficult
Yeah.
all at the same time. But for people to have aha moments, whether you're family members or whether you're the person that needs to get into recovery, everybody needs recovery. So it's a lot of acceptance for the families. You're not bad people.
Right.
You're doing the best that you think you know how to do, and so is your loved one.
How do you think that that looks different now compared to 10 years ago, or in 2015 or 2020 when you started hearing about I'm sorry, 2015 or 2010 when you started hearing about 2010, I feel like is when you really started hearing more about the opioid epidemic.
Mhm.
And um, we really didn't know that pain pills were addictive then, but we were kind of suspecting it. How do you think people under or maybe not understand, but are it's a little more normalized to where like people aren't as harsh, or maybe it's just because everyone has somebody in their family that has gone through this. But what are you seeing as far as the changes of perception from say 2010 to now when it comes to addiction?
Well, okay, so I could even say, like, when we first started out, besides AA and Al-Anon, we were the only game in town. We
Mm,
were
wow.
all of us, and still we hear today that people didn't even realize they still don't realize that we're here doing what we're doing.
Right.
But just a couple of years ago, First Assembly Church had a kind of a regional conference, and it was Faith and Recovery was the name of it. There were about 134 people there, and there were probably, I don't know, maybe 30 or 40 different types of ministries for recovery that are in churches or in communities. So just from the data standpoint,
Yeah.
over the, those 30 years and stuff, there's been so much more awareness, and churches are starting to talk about it.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
I think that's huge. And then communities are realizing that it's not those people. We can't just say it's that part of town or it's whatever, because it is in every family.
Right. And and just as an employer, for years, for 17 years, um, one of my very best employees, most loyal, hardest worker, person you could depend on, had had a previous workplace injury and was on medication from his doctor,
Mhm.
pain medication from his doctor, but he got addicted to it. And it just, as you know, to manage that pain, it had to increase and increase and increase the amount that he was taking until he couldn't work anymore. And, and they said, well, if you have the surgery, it's going to be better. You'll be able to get off these pain pills. He had the surgery and it got worse. It was worse from the surgery. And so then they put him on a pain treatment, a pain, some type of pain management. Um, and he wasn't able to go back to work. And that's I mean, I feel like when you look at the statistics and you look at workplace injuries, and that's a high number of the folks who are getting addicted. And it's because, man, when you're hurting, that medicine is a quick fix. And so a lot of times, and now I feel like we're doing so much better now when it comes to chiropractic treatment, when it comes to physical therapy, um, than just going straight to